At 2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 2020 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today.
When you like Ventura TV Appliance on Facebook, it's nice, but you love the Frigidaire Gallery appliances we deliver? It's even better. Our website is cool, and it's a good place to start, but you really should touch the merchandise before you buy. Time for that upgrade to an Energy Star qualified French door Frigidaire Gallery refrigerator. Quality appliances for the way you live. Get the best selection, price, and service in town without waiting. Come in to Ventura TV Appliance and touch the merchandise.
The Ballad of Andy and Barney. Andy and Barney were lawmen, bravest you ever did see. Warned every crook in the record book to stay out of Mayberry. They were the law.
Yes, they were the law,
and they didn't know fear.
The Andy Griffith Show.
I guess to sum it up, you could say there's 3 reasons why there's so little crime in Mayberry. There's Andy, and there's me, and baby makes 3.
Now on MeTV Fresno.
When you're looking for KitchenAid innovation and quality, who has the answers, the selection, the price? Ventura TV Appliance. With billions in nationwide appliance buying power, more than Home Depot and Best Buy combined, will help you save. Our low prices on Energy Star qualified KitchenAid appliances save you energy and money, and pay no interest on select models when paid in full within 12 months. Ventura TV Appliance, serving you since 1951.
From a top-secret location, it's the spies who love me, bringing together MeTV's top super spies to fight evil at a memorable moment's notice. They're daring.
That's right.
Brave.
Now what are we gonna do?
The best we can.
Suave.
Does that apply to me, Oscar?
Possibly.
And smart.
Yellow finger in the gun trick.
Maxwell Smart.
MeTV Fresno, channel 43.6 and Xfinity 187.
Hi, I'm John Mallos. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV here on a Monday morning, Labor Day. Happy Labor Day to everybody. Hope you had a great weekend, and if you are home, enjoy yourself. It's going to be a beautiful day out there. Today we're talking politics, local politics specifically, in that shooting that took place at the jail over the weekend on Saturday morning. You're welcome to call in at 436-MeTV option 11. You get the recording, just hit option 11, and we're good to go. Back after this from Thomas Casagrande, our sponsor today.
Tonight I want to discuss the importance of the television medium to the American people.
And welcome back here on the program on a Monday morning. It's Labor Day 2016. Hope you have had a wonderful weekend so far. And, many parts around the state of California, school actually starts tomorrow. But, of course, we've been in session here in Fresno in the area here for the better part of 2.5 weeks. But anyway, enjoy the rest of the day. Sit back and watch this program and enjoy it. We have an expert in the house today talking about local politics, the run for mayor, and all the rest. But a quick programming note for tomorrow. Dennis Hart's going to be in here. We're going to talk a little bit about the Colin Kaepernick thing and some new developments there over the weekend. And then we'll talk about the presidential race and what the latest is with Hillary Clinton's emails, some 30,000 new ones now that have not been released, whether or not the FBI, I guess the FBI has released some of those, and we'll see. She used like some 13 different devices, 8 of those which were BlackBerry in nature. And anyway, speaking of going to, well, anyway, we're having problems with the camera there, going in and out. I guess it's okay now. Anyway, that'll be tomorrow. Then on Wednesday, we got a special program. There are some residents in Northwest Fresno trying to keep a sexual predator from moving into their neighborhood. He is a convicted sexual offender, a 5-time offender, and they want him to stay out. It keeps going in and out, the picture there. Anyway, that's coming up on Wednesday. Let's get to today's program. As you well know, over the weekend, early on Saturday morning, shortly after 8:30, right after the Fresno County Jail opened up, there was an ambush on two correctional officers. They were both shot in the head and the neck area. And the Fresno County Jail opens up very early in the morning. The suspect is a convicted rapist. He served 18 years in prison. He wanted to go back to jail. The victims are still fighting for their lives. Margaret Mims, the sheriff of Fresno County, held a very somber news conference on Saturday to explain what the situation was. Here's Margaret Mims, the sheriff.
Two veteran correctional officers of the Fresno County Sheriff's Office are in the hospital after being shot in the head and neck areas. Juanita Davila, who has 18 years of experience, is listed in critical but stable condition. Toa Scanlon, who has 10 years of experience, is listed in critical condition. The suspect who has been arrested is 37-year-old Tong Vang of Fresno. Tong Vang entered the main lobby of the Fresno County Jail. He came in saying that he wanted to visit somebody and tried to get to the head of the line. He failed to comply with orders to get in the back of the line, continued to act agitated, walking around the lobby. He was confronted by correctional officers who insisted that he wait his turn in line. A correctional officer working at the desk called in for help when it looked like Vang was going to resist, which he did. Juanita Davila was the first to confront Vang. He pulled a gun out of his clothing somewhere and began shooting. As the correctional officers that had been called for help approached, they heard the shots being fired. After the shots were fired and our two correctional officers were down, one of our jail lieutenants, who is a peace officer, he carries a weapon, responded to the lobby. As he saw the suspect and saw that he was armed, he fired at the suspect. The suspect then retreated to a secure area of the jail, and at that time then we have some deputy sheriffs arriving who see him. The suspect actually dropped his gun down on the floor and said, "I want to be arrested." He was held at gunpoint while the rescue occurred of the correctional officers. So while he was being held, other deputies actually grabbed the wounded and pulled them out of the lobby to the awaiting ambulances. This guy is a prison inmate. He's a convict. He's a parolee. And maybe that's where he belongs for the rest of his life.
Live in our studio now is one of our political experts, Doug Vagim. He ran for mayor just recently here in the June primary. We'll get his take on what happened at the Fresno County Jail and if there should be more security there. I know you're probably thinking, well, isn't there enough security around the jail anyway? Well, maybe not enough. We'll talk to him about that. 436-ME-TV, option 11. Today's program here on Labor Day 2016 is sponsored by Dr. Thomas Casagrande, 20/20 Optometrics. We want your take. And remember, when you get that recording, just hit option 11. Doug Vagim is here. You're there. I'm here. Back in a moment. At 20/20 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 20/20 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today.
The Justice Network is here. If you haven't tuned in, you're missing a great lineup of gripping stories of real crime, plus an unprecedented effort by viewers like you to play an active role in making your community safer. You can help support law enforcement by providing information that may lead to the apprehension of dangerous criminals or find a missing child. Great shows and your chance to fight crime, only on the Justice Network.
Back here on the program on Labor Day, and the problem is that these jails, we think that they are very, very secure because we have correctional officers all over the place. It is a jail. We expect top of the line's security when we walk in there. That may not necessarily be the case. And the two victims, the correctional officers, we do have their pictures. Let's put their pictures back up on the screen before I get to our guest. 436 MeTV option 11. They are still in critical condition today. They've had non-stop visitors at the hospital, including Sheriff Margaret Mims, the police chief Jerry Dyer, and many other politicians. Of course, Henry Perea showed up. He's running for mayor. He showed up on Saturday, and so this is a dire situation. And of course, the suspect, once again, will put his picture up on the screen. Have no idea what his motives are. Thong Vang, and he walked in armed. He just walked into the jail with a handgun. I mean, so how secure is this place? Doug Vagim is here. Good morning, Doug. Good to see you.
John, thank you.
So you're a former Fresno County supervisor. You know Sheriff Margaret Mims. You've known past sheriffs that have served in that position. So is the jail as secure as it should be in your judgment? You know the jail. I mean, you know it well as serving as a supervisor.
Right. Well, that jail opened brand new when I was first coming on board at the Fresno County Board of Supervisors, and it was set up to be secured after the lobby, and it was open to the family so they could come in and be inside while they waited to get into the visitor center, which is beyond the lobby.
What year was that?
89 is basically when they opened up the new jail, we call it the new jail, versus the original jail, which has been sitting on the county park, county courthouse park. They call it for the purpose of the fact the courthouse and the jail have been there since the 1880s. When they built the brand new one, they built it in a first class, modern, up to standard. This is the way a jail should be, and it still is. The procedures are the issue.
To a certain extent, maybe.
Well, what will have to probably happen, unfortunately, now is they're going to have to move the detectors out front before you get in the lobby, unfortunately, and that's probably what's going to happen. I'm just surmising. That's my guess, and that's going to be
like going to the airport, in other words.
Or like going to any courthouse. You have to go through before you get inside. The very, very front door is the only place you can get through before you go into the scanners, and they'll probably end up having to do that at a earlier stage of getting into that building. Because of the fact that there are people that are going to be carrying, and you have people who are in there, children, and unarmed custodians that are in there that are actually charged to oversee the inmates. And
these correctional officers. Now, here's a bone of contention, and I heard this brought up over the weekend, and that is that these correctional officers, maybe you need to arm them. And perhaps you need more of them, which is going to cost more money, and that is a legitimate cost and request if the sheriff were to put that in with the Fresno County Board of Supervisors. I mean, this is a safety issue. Am I right, Doug? I mean, somebody could walk in there with a hand grenade, for God's sake.
Well, it is, but there's a lot of things that trigger when you start making those types of statements. One is they're going to have to be, before they can carry, they're going to have to be post-trained. That's police officer training.
Well, that costs money.
Lots of money.
But
they are trained. But they are trained. Probably most of those folks after a few months or a year on the job, they could probably pass post-training pretty easily. But the problem is, and traditionally in the profile of any jail, you don't want your correctional officers carrying because they can be ambushed as they turn a corner, and if they're carrying, then you got a live weapon in the hands of an inmate. The way jails have been traditionally designed is the fact that you have a team ready to come out. As soon as someone says, I'm in trouble, boom, you got a TAC team with arms, with shields, ready to go overwhelm any inmate. That's what the model is in those jails. And it probably is going to, I would presume that Margaret Mims would heavily recommend that stay that way.
She's tough on crime, too.
One of the ways they'll probably have to do this is be sure that there are the level of armed permissible arm carrying folks that have that safety distance between the inmates and their gun, so they're not overwhelmed and someone takes the gun off of them, so that if an unarmed correctional officer is overwhelmed, that team is right there before that person can take that a weapon out of their pocket. Unfortunately, that person was inside causing a disturbance. My summation here is that check before that weapon is notified to everyone that someone's carrying is going to be probably moved out front now, which is a disadvantage to the families who have nothing to do with the crime or anything else, or visiting a family member, a friend, what have you. Now they're going to probably end up waiting outside. I think is probably what's going to happen. I don't know how Margaret's going to answer
How
this.
about arming? Okay, you have the jail, and I'm assuming at the jail, before you actually go inside the jail, you have to go through metal detectors,
No,
right?
there's a lobby that anybody can walk in.
Okay, but beyond that, once you go beyond that, you have to go through a metal detector?
Oh, it's very, very difficult to get in because you're confronted by a
Okay. Okay,
thick,
and
thick glass and a very solid checkpoint. No one's going beyond that with any weapon on
and
them.
those correctional officers, once you get beyond that point, are they carrying weapons?
No.
They're not.
No.
Okay, so would it be feasible or reasonable to have those correctional officers that are stationed in the lobby and maybe to a certain extent beyond that point armed, have them armed, but the ones that are actually inside the jail unarmed?
Well, you'll have deputy sheriffs up in the lobby, just like you do at the county courthouses. Those are deputy sheriffs.
But they have to be armed
And
in
they
the
are.
lobby.
Those deputy sheriffs are armed in the lobbies of the courthouses.
But they'll have to be armed inside the courthouse in the lobby.
That's the way they are in the courthouses. At the jail, it'll probably be the same thing now.
Yeah, because and not beyond that point though.
No, because you have TAC teams ready to go in the jail that have arms that could come out in a matter of seconds. That's why that lieutenant was able to respond so fast.
Yeah.
If there was a big incident, you'd have a dozen of those folks coming out with their TAC teams, helmets on, shields on, ready to go.
Right.
This is one guy, one errant guy that came in there with a gun, unexpected. No one thought anybody would be carrying a gun that crazily, and then all of a sudden go nuts. And I guess the whole profile on the individual is going to have to be done. Did he have something in his blood? What was it? Why did he go crazy?
Knows?
Who knows? And that's the teams over there, led by Margaret Mims, are going to have to sort all that out. But I don't think they're going to change a profile where you start carrying every correctional officer carries. That's
No,
I'll tell you.
but the ones in the lobby, you're going to have
Well,
them
that'll be a
carry-
deputy sheriff.
It'll be a deputy sheriff, so they're going to have to change the policy
Just
a little
like they
bit.
do in the county courthouses.
Right.
Those are deputy
Right.
sheriffs. They're standing there with guns on, even though you have folks with briefcases and suits, and moms and dads and people going to jury and everything else. Never even been in a courthouse before, but they call it jury duty. They're still confronted by a team, scanning them with their scanners and their electronic stuff, looking at their purses and briefcases with arms. They're ready to go if somebody acts out. I'll probably end up being the same thing at the front end of that, getting in the jail. Unfortunately, if there's not enough room in that lobby, and there's not enough room to move things deeper into that jail for the family members, that means they're going to end up having to stand outside, or they might even build another enclosure outside just as you come up those steps. Something like that's going to end up probably having to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to cost money, though. This guy has created an expense to the county of Fresno and the people of Fresno beyond.
Wow.
Now, let's don't forget the fact that we have 2 officers down. And I want to say...
That's awful. And we
prayer-
extend our prayers to the families and to those victims.
Please, yes, we do. I mean, I think they're the foremost on everyone's mind, particularly in the sheriff's family and all law enforcement's family. We have 2 down officers that were doing their job to try to quell a disturbance to innocent members that are standing around that lobby. Children were in that lobby, and now they're ending up in a critical condition in the hospital. So I send my condolences to the families, and I pray for their recovery and speedy recovery. They're back on the job fast. And Sheriff Mims has to sort all this out. So, being the fact that this is Labor Day too, and you're talking about people who work 24/7. That job is a 24/7 position.
I would assume that lobby in that jail is and I don't want to assume anything. It's on lockdown. It has to be that lobby.
Whether they're sorting that out and leaving it on lockdown, I don't know. But they still have a lot of family members. There was one thing in the news that was interesting, that a family came all the way from Southern California to visit their member of their family and turned away. They had to go home. I mean, there's nothing they could do. I don't know if Margaret Mims was able to find an alternative way for those folks to get in to see their family member.
No, but you have to understand the circumstances
Of
too.
course.
I mean, these are not normal times. That was not a normal situation.
But we pray for the recovery of
Yes,
those
we do.
two
We got a
officers.
phone call here. Might as well take it. Caller, go ahead. You're on the air with Doug Vagim, and your question, please.
My question is, I just recently went to jury duty. I got called in, and what really bothered me was that there is no checks to see if you have any weapons or anything like that as you go in to do the jury duty. Well, and it's really of high concern to me because I used to also go to visit the inmates, and right in the very lobby there's no checks.
Well, can I ask you which county? Was Fresno County or?
Yeah, right there. It's actually across from the courthouse where you go in for jury duty, and then for the going in and visiting the inmates, it's right there in Fresno County, right there where the shooting
Yeah,
occurred.
well, the jury room itself does not have a check because it's the citizens showing up to be paneled, and they're called to go upstairs into the courthouse. When you go upstairs to the courthouse, you're scanned. When you get into the courthouse itself, the jury room does not have a check.
So it's the same thing. They don't check you until you get past it, huh?
Well, they check you when you go into the courthouse itself, and that's the when you walk out of that jury room. If you're not paneled, you'll never see a scanner. But if you're in panel and they call your name to go up to the courtroom, you're going to stand in line and go through a scanner, a wander, and everything else. So, yeah, they check you to go in. No, the jury panel is not in panel. That is an open door. Look, I hope every government door, every store, every public place doesn't end up having to have a scanner and a wand and a staff doing all that. Everything in America is turning into that type of thing. I hope our public gets so mad that people just realize that we will not stand for that anymore. And there are understandable things that they do have to check because people will walk in like this gentleman did with a gun. And if in the old days, not too many years ago, you could go into a courthouse with a gun and they didn't scan you. And it wasn't until a few cases like the Harvey Milk case and that thing in San Francisco.
Yeah,
where
and there was the case in Sacramento or near Sacramento County where a child molester had molested a woman's, I believe, son, or killed him, or it was molestation, killing, or I can't remember her name off the top of my head. And she walked into a courtroom with a gun and shot that suspect. Shot him dead.
And some judges have been shot at.
And some judges have been shot at.
So they rightfully, and then of course airports. You could walk on the tarmac and hug your loved one goodbye, right at the plane door in the old days. Wasn't that
Not
long
now.
ago?
Not
No,
now.
not now. You can't even look at the door; they'll arrest you.
Yeah, I know you can't do it, but it may come to that. Look at the Fresno County Registrar's office. You can just walk in there.
Well,
That's
sure.
a government building. How do you know?
And the Hall of Records, same way.
Hall of Records.
But I hope they don't end up having to do that to all these buildings. Honestly, if they
Maybe the government buildings, maybe they should.
governments
for
ought to
safety.
be open and welcome to the public for the services that they provide.
Yes,
the
but
public.
you also want them to be safe. Look at the U.S. Capitol. Look how many shootings they've had in recent years.
There's not a federal building in Washington D.C. you can walk in the door without being scanned and wand.
Not now.
Not anymore.
I
But
lived in Washington D.C. in 1989-90 for about a year and a half. At that time, I could walk into the U.S. and I did. I walked into the U.S. Capitol, walked into all these buildings, no problem, no scanning, no nothing, and it's all changed.
Unfortunately, that's a minority of the minority of the minorities of us human beings that are causing everybody else to have to live that way.
Well,
that's the problem.
yeah.
Because one out of a million nuts are there out there. We cannot take a chance that one person is going to hurt other people. But yet they still do because we still don't have every place
I know.
Secure enough to keep that person from walking in and doing something harmful to someone.
Yeah.
In this case, it caused 2 officers to be in critical condition, and again, we all pray for
Of course,
their recovery.
back in the old days there in 89 or 90, you still had to have security to go in the White House. And I went into the White House one time, and as a member of the press, of course, and tight security there. It always has been tight security there. But the U.S. Capitol at the time didn't have that type of
No,
security.
you could
Well, that
walk
was
right up the
shocking,
steps
yeah.
and walk right in.
Walk
yeah.
right up to the steps. I could walk into a congressman's office, no problem.
Yeah. Well, you can't even stand around the fence of the White House without being
I
run
used
off.
to drive by the White House
Yeah,
all the time.
you could drive right by it.
Drive right by on 16th Street there.
Yeah.
You know, just drive by and wave.
That's right.
Not now.
No.
They got it blockaded, I
Again,
believe.
it's a small group of people every
Yeah.
time that create the rest of us to have to live like that.
Hey, quickly, we got to go to break. I'll ask you after the break about Sheriff Margaret Mims. She's a tough, no-nonsense sheriff. She won't stand for crime. She'll crack down as hard as she can. 436 MeTV option 11. We are here on Labor Day 2016. 436 MeTV. When you get that recording, hit option 11. We're back after our sponsor break. Thomas Casagrande of 2020 Optometrics.
Frigidaire. We introduced the first home freezer, the first pulsator agitator washer, and now we introduce the Frigidaire Orbit Clean dishwasher, designed with a unique wash arm that gives you 4 times more water coverage for a consistently better clean. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
At 2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 2020 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today. Back here on the program, 436 MeTV option 11. Let me ask you about Sheriff Margaret Mims now. And, you know, she's a tough, no-nonsense type sheriff. One, knowing her the way you do, how much has this affected her? And how swiftly will she take action to correct whatever went wrong?
Well, I know this is a deep effect to her and all the law enforcement officials across the United States. As a matter of fact, when one of their fellow members gets injured,
You
in
could
the
tell
line
she
of-
was shaken.
And the
in that-
fact,
in that
oh,
news conference.
absolutely.
You could tell. In fact, can we roll, Carrie? Can we roll that videotape of Sheriff Margaret Mims? Just roll it with no sound, just so we can see the look on her face. Just look at the body language and the expressions. Once we put it up there, all right, this is the scene, but once you see Margaret Mims, she's deeply affected by this, and who wouldn't be? There's one of the victims, obviously one of the correctional officers there, and a very sad situation. He's still in critical, fighting for her life. There's the other victim there, and an outpouring of community support, and Thong Vang, of course, the suspect, horrible. He just walked in with a gun. He said he wanted to be arrested. Now, there is Margaret there. Go ahead, Doug. What's your analysis as you look at her?
Well, look, we watched Margaret go through the shootings at Minkler, where those 2 officers were down, and on an ambush shooting.
2001, I believe, wasn't it?
It wasn't. Oh, yeah.
A little
later
than that.
A little later than that. And she was there. No doubt, whether it's the police chief, whether it's Chief Dyer or any chief in this state, any county sheriff in the nation, is going to be shaken by one of their own getting hurt in the line of duty, particularly when in fact they're serving under their responsible staff, and the chief officer, which is the sheriff, the chief of police, what have you. When something happens to one of their rank and file, I'll tell you, it shakes them deeply, and they want to do something fast.
But knowing her, how quickly will she move on this?
Oh, sure. They're moving right now, I'll guarantee you. They've got a team on it right now, probably doing the forensics, making sure that whatever happened, going backwards on what that individual, why did he come in? They're probably trying to get search warrants on his, social sites and stuff to see if he had any plans on whoever he was going into jail to see and all that kind of stuff. Everyone needs to know motive. Obviously, charges are going to be brought against the guys. He's been in jail 19 years. He's probably a 3-striker, perhaps, now. And he's probably going to be locked away forever. Perhaps he's one of these guys that couldn't handle it on the outside. He wanted to be on the inside. You have all that kind of stuff.
But why did he have to go in and shoot? See, we can't answer these questions, but I'm just posing it. If he wanted to go back to jail, just go in and say, hey, I want to be arrested. I brought a gun in. Arrest me. Why do you have to shoot
Yeah,
two
well,
people.
Yeah, and that question is every time that happens, that question comes up. Why does anybody
Right.
have to shoot to hurt somebody? And the fact of it is, I think they're out there to hurt somebody in the first place, to get whatever off their chest into somebody else's chest, like a bullet. In this case, it happened to be two correctional officers that came out to quiet them down. Really, those correctional officers are geared up to quiet people down because they're quieting people down in a untenable situation in that jail, because you got a lot of folks in there that don't care, that will spit on you, throw like feces at you and everything else. They put up with a lot, and the fact that those officers are trained to to calm people down, and I'm sure that was what was in their mind, to calm the guy down at first.
Yeah, because he wanted to go to the head of the line, and they told him, "Hey, go back and stand back there and wait your turn."
And he wasn't in any criminal offense at that particular time. They just wanted to calm him down, and then he turns it into a situation with a gun, and they get it. By doing their job, they're in a critical condition right now.
Yeah.
It's an amazing statement and testament to how their job can turn on them as fast as lightning. And Margaret Mims, I'm sure, as all that stuff is going through her mind, they're probably analyzing with her team how they're going to change this, how they're going to keep it from happening again. And unfortunately, it may end up being a little bit more harder on the public to get in that place than before.
Yeah, and that doesn't bother, shouldn't bother anybody. Shouldn't bother. But
well, if you're standing outside in inclement weather,
you know what? Too bad.
Well, some family,
you know what?
I'm sure Margaret Mims is going to have to consider that.
She's going to have to consider that, but she also has
to
to consider safety as number one, right?
Oh,
Doug?
absolutely. And we all face that. We face that, and we can't even get to say goodbye to our loved ones anymore at airport. We have to stand outside the first turnstile.
Isn't that crazy? But that's life. Go to Israel and find out how tough it is to get in and out. I've been to Israel too, and boy, it's not easy to get in. It's not easy to get out.
Yeah, well, all the way up to 2001, you could go on the tarmac and hug your loved one goodbye. I mean, and now you can't even get past stage one at an airport.
We may become an Israeli-type military police-type state eventually because of terrorism. We may eventually get to that state.
Well, it's
getting there.
Every time they cramp down and they make the
surely.
public go through to weed out that 1 in a million people that may do what this gentleman did. All of us have to wait and suffer for that.
Let's take a break, Doug. Good to have you here on Labor Day. Thanks for taking the time. 436 MeTV Option 11. Thomas Casagrande is our sponsor today, and we're going to be back with our program here in just a moment.
The following is a list of celebrities you will not see on MeTV programs. Charlie Sheen, Lindsay Lohan, Snooki, Paris Hilton, Perez Hilton, Honey Boo Boo, Justin Bieber, Simon Cowell, Chris Brown, Miley Cyrus, and the Real Housewives of any place. This is who you will see on MeTV programs. Lucy, Ralph, Mary, Perry, Gilligan, Kenner, Spock, Batman, Rowdy, Festus, and the Beaver. MeTV. Thanks for watching.
At 2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 2020 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today. Spending a lot of time, of course, talking about this shooting that took place over there at the Fresno County Jail. And before we get to our next topic here, the Fresno County Jail serves under the jurisdiction of the Fresno County Sheriff's Department, right? Not the police department.
That's correct.
Okay, but it's within the city limits.
Well, it's County of Fresno.
County of Fresno.
Every county has its domain of having a requirement to have a jail.
All right.
Cities can have holding areas for themselves, but they got to be booked. Once they're booked, they belong to the County of Fresno, which is a state of California linkage to the Superior Court of California. So
okay,
that's
now
the
let
whole
me ask
purpose
you
of
a
that.
question. As we put up the two pictures of the two candidates running for mayor of Fresno, of course, Henry Perea and Lee Brand, these two going at it and fighting tooth and nail over the water situation. Now you have a new situation. There's Henry Perea. Everybody knows what he looks like. And of course, everybody knows what the other candidate, Lee Brand, looks like. He's a sitting city councilman. So Doug, clarify for me, because you've served in government. So the mayor and the city council and the police chief would have no input whatsoever on the security of the jail at all?
Well, look, when you look at those news reports, there was Fresno PD all over that place as soon as that call came in because they didn't know how many other
support. They're giving support.
Not only support, but there might be others. They didn't know that was a lone
other
wolf.
Shooters.
That could have been an incident with multiple people. They didn't know. And with all these other incidences happening across the United States, the first thing in the law enforcement's mind, I guarantee you, is there are a lot of other guys out there ready to go. Is this an ambush?
They flooded the zone there.
They sure did. And so there has been a lot of cooperation, and will continue to be a lot of cooperation.
But in terms of policy, though, I'm talking about policy. So when the mayor gets in, the new mayor, I don't know if it's going to be Perea, Brand, whoever, might be Doug Vagim for all we know.
Right.
They'll have no say-so into policy. Am I right about that?
Well, a sheriff, Mims, will reach out to say, what can we do? And I'll tell you, for example, John, when they were first instituting that the new jail, that was the entry point then for all bookings when the new jail at the corner of Tulare and M Street opened up. They had to put a point of entry there, just like an emergency room has a point of entry, for the PD anywhere in the county, whether it's one of the small cities or the city of Fresno or Clovis or any other community, or a sheriff, or a highway patrol, or a federal officer, whoever arrested somebody, and they want to book them, and they want to put them in a place that's called a jail to hold them, they have to bring them to that facility. At one time, that was an open, no gate, no fences, nothing. You pulled up, you pulled into a parking space, and you opened your car door with a guy handcuffed in the back seat, or gal, and brought him into a door just like you would an emergency room. Okay, you walked him in. Well, pretty soon this one guy, I believe, bolted the car, and he ran. So the next thing we had, they built this enclosure that you had, what they call it, it's like I think law enforcement laws would call it a Sully port, which means you can come in, you can't go out. It's like
So even if he got away, there's nowhere to go.
The door closes right behind you, and you're locked in. And the door opens only when everyone knows where everybody is. So the cars come in, the doors close, boom. And so if a guy gets out of the car and runs, there's no place to go. It's just a high fence.
But in terms of policy, the mayor and the police chief of Fresno don't have too much input, right? It's really up to the Fresno County supervisors to determine that, and the sheriff. Let's take a call here. Good morning, caller. You're on the air with Doug Vagim. Go ahead.
Yeah, Doug. Let me clarify something. Only for this reason, I think who's ever going to be mayor needs to get down with the police chief, whoever it may be, and say Sheriff Mims, and talk about the situation of what happened there at the courthouse. I mean, something like that. Who would have thought someone would do that? But they need to get together, find a plan that will work for both of them. For all three of them, because nobody ever thought this would happen in Fresno, especially in the courthouse, anywhere near, because it's been, for years, it's always been kind of open, But don't you think that they can get together instead of going different ways and having their second or third under command, and find out 10 hours later that there was a shooting, But at the same time, what do you think, or what would you do, whoever be the mayor or whatever, to improve a situation that happened there in Fresno? That's really what I want to ask you, Doug.
We kind of covered that.
Well, that goes to your question.
Maybe you just joined us.
Well, and that goes to your question. Which is, where's the policy breaks? And the fact of it is, Fresno PD and other PDs in the cities of Fresno County have input, I'm sure, to the sheriff of Fresno County. I'm sure Margaret Mims takes input from all those factions. And
because somebody could be arrested in, say, Fowler.
Right. Oh, absolutely. They are
they bring
arrested
them
in
here.
Fowler and brought to Fresno. Yeah,
Yeah, they're
Selma,
brought to here. Selma, they're brought
Kingsburg.
here. Kingsburg,
Yeah.
they're brought here.
Even Kalinga.
Kalinga,
that
they're
far
brought
away,
here.
they're brought here. Yeah.
So you're talking about, 26,000 square miles of Fresno County, wherever they're arrested.
Well, 6,000 square miles.
6,000, not 26,000. 6,000 square miles. So within that 6,000 square mile range, you're going to have people arrested. They're going to be brought here. So all of those smaller cities in the surrounding area of Fresno will have an input, including Fresno PD.
Even federal officials, when they arrest, they bring them to the Fresno County Jail. They have a contract with the federal folks that they hold federal inmates at Fresno County Jail. There's just like the city of Fresno set aside and pays for a set of beds, so they're high-profile folks that they don't want released. And
they're like 6 or 8 beds or
something like that. And the feds have done the same thing.
Yeah.
They pay a certain amount of money, and they get a lock-in of a certain amount of beds. That's the way that is designed. It's done by contract, though.
So it isn't solely up to the Fresno County Sheriff, Margaret Mims, or the supervisors. They get input from other agencies, then the policy is created, of course.
Well, the decision is going to be made by, a policy decision is going to be made by the Sheriff, Margaret Mims.
And presented to the supervisor.
And the Fresno County Board of Supervisors are going to make a policy decision economically. In other words, they're going to say, can we afford it or not?
All right.
And that's where those discussions will begin.
I want to move on to the mayor's race. We've already put up the 2 pictures of the 2 men running in the final, of course. November the 8th is the election. Slowly dwindling away here, chipping away at the year 2016 and getting down to the nitty-gritty before we get to that election. Lee Brand way behind in the polls early on. He's starting to close the gap according to the Channel 30 poll. How much stock are you putting into that, and does Brand still have a chance?
Oh, absolutely.
He does.
Oh, absolutely. The fact of it is, everyone knew when I was in the primary, as you know. Or do you remember?
I forgot already who was in there. I may have been in there. Who knows? I wrote myself in. No, not really.
But and I thank you, John, for bringing all your candidates on. I really do. You're probably one of the few to did all the candidates, but not many others did. Okay, but
Power Talk didn't.
Power Talk, and others didn't either.
How about KMJ?
I don't know. They didn't.
They didn't bring you on?
No.
Okay.
And look, those are private decisions, and I respect everyone's private decision. But you did a community thing in your own, and you privately did it. I mean, you didn't have to do it. Now the question becomes then,
who's got the edge here?
Yeah, I believe momentum will be basically right now with the mayor coming out. The brouhaha that's happening with Trump surging, I believe. I want to call it a surge because he is doing things that are taking advantage of Secretary Clinton's
emails.
Not just the emails, but the health issue, why she has to stand down, why she won't do a press conference. All those other kind of things are starting to come up in the ether of
less
people.
and less trustworthy, according to some polls, and she's only leading by 4 points nationally. Right. But I want to put up that we have a couple of photos just recently, last week. Mayor Ashley Swearingen finally coming out and endorsing Lee Brand. There she is there, but I think we have the photos of her endorsement. We don't have them? We don't? Oh, okay. I thought that was on the list. Sorry. Okay, I guess we don't have those photos. But she endorsed Mayor. Okay, let me rephrase that. She is Mayor Ashley Swearingen, and she endorsed Lee Brand. Is this going to make a difference?
I believe it will make a difference in the fact that Ms. Swearingen does have a significant following. She was elected 2 times, has served as a popular mayor, has her critics, but she has been an energetic mayor to her causes. And the fact of it is, there are people who will look at that endorsement and say, hey, I will feel more comfortable voting for Mr. Brand because the mayor has endorsed him. There's no doubt about it.
Caller, you're on the air with Doug Vagim. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to know who the parole board members are who let this guy back out of prison. I mean, these guys should be responsible and have some kind of penalty for turning a predator loose on the people like that. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, well,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And whether or not this gentleman is one of those Prop 57 releases or something like that out of prison, I'm not sure. But if it turns out to be that, boy, I'll tell you, Margaret Mims has been a real advocate for getting rid of that.
Well, he served 19 years. He was part of that gang rape, the Mongolian Boys Society, sex slave thing.
Yeah, and whether he just served his term.
He served his term, and then he was out.
Yeah.
Caller, go ahead. You're on the air with Doug Vagim.
Mr. Vagim, first of all, I want to say it's always a pleasure to see and listen to you. You are a breath of fresh air. I appreciate your opinions and your honesty. And I would like to know if you plan to run for any other office in the future. But I would also like to make a quick comment. This whole deal with the shootings at the county jail, my grand uncle was an actual sheriff's officer who carried in the jail, the old jail. And when a problem happened, they would crack skulls. They would put them in the infirmary, and they would send them to get mental help by force. It's not good one way or the other. There is going to be no win in that type of situation, and that was my comment. But seriously, are you going to be running for anything again?
Okay. Thank you for the call. Doug, go
Well,
ahead.
thank you for the comments. And as far as this reverse, or from the beginning, or last question, which was the beginning question, is frankly at this particular time, and if you probably wanted to call my wife and ask that question, you get a frank no. He's not doing anything more like that ever again. But look, who knows what will come up. I want to serve the public in whatever way, because it's in my blood, and the fact of it is I have a native feeling that the public has a right to have people who at least attempt to try to understand this stuff.
Yeah.
To help the public as an advocate for the public, whether it's a situation of explaining something like this or saving them the tax dollars that perhaps shouldn't be bore on them. Those kind of things are always going to be with me. So the answer to your question about running for office at this particular time, it's very hard to make that response. Back to your question about cracking down on the sheriffs. In the jail and the past of your uncle's service. Look, things have changed as far as policy of being able to crack down on anything anymore. It's TLC all the way on any public institution. The officers that are charged to do those duties have a real tough road to hoe, particularly in the jail, because they cannot manhandle, so to speak, the inmates like they used to be able to do without getting into trouble, civil rights violations and everything else. It's a very tough job to do. And I think Margaret Mims is going to have to sort this out, and I think she'll have a lot of help doing it. And I know they'll have an answer.
We got to take a break. 436 MeTV option 11, Thomas Casagrande, our sponsor today on the program.
Want to create something extraordinary? Create perfection. Our lifestyle appliances make it easy. KitchenAid, Ventura TV appliance, and you, when only the best will do.
At 2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 2020 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today. Okay, back here on the program, 436 MeTV option 11. Quickly, Doug, we're short on time, and there's a series of topics I need to get to. So, Perea, what does he have to do to win? Because he's been bombarded on this water thing. Mm-hmm. Perea's been bombarded drastically on the water thing by Lee Brand. Let's put up, if we can, showing one of those galvanized pipes The water coming out, of course, discolored. Some of the homes have lead. Some of the homes have been tested for lead. There's one of those galvanized pipes that one of our guests brought in not long ago. And so, you know, Brand is saying, and Mark Standriff is saying, and the mayor is saying, look, the water has been tested. They brought these two experts in. One guy's name is Mark Edwards. He worked obviously in Flint, Michigan. Vernon Snowyink, they brought him in. They said the water entering the homes is clean, but once it gets into the homes, that's where the problem begins. So what process are they using now to try to fix that? Because they're mixing groundwater with surface water.
Yes, they are.
What's happening
and it's a big
to try to fix that?
But before, I want to just dwell on one thing on Mr. Perea. We shouldn't overlook the fact that Supervisor Debbie Pachigian has endorsed Henry Perea, which
I
is,
understand that.
The Bee didn't say much about it, and the press said a little bit about it on the other media. But the fact of it is, that's a very important thing to Mr. Perea.
But does Perea have a plan to fix this? Does Brand have a plan to fix this?
So let's just make sure that he will have his energy off of endorsements like Supervisor Pachigian. I want to make sure that everyone understands that there is balance in that race. So it's going to be issues like this water issue.
Do they have a plan to fix it, either one of them?
Well, I think you explained on your show before, the fact of it is the people they brought in were hired by the city to explain what you would typically do when you, like any corporation would do to get yourself unwound to make a public...
To protect yourself.
Yeah, you know, it's like...
But Doug, they're saying that before the water enters the home, the water's clean. And once it gets into the home, because of these galvanized pipes, because of the mixture of the two waters, that's where it's going bad.
Well, the question becomes, they're putting 7 chemicals in that water, John, to try to balance this pH. In other words, it's like taking medicine and one causes one problem, so you take another medicine to balance the other problem caused by the other medicine. It's the
like
same.
Putting conditioner in your hair a little bit.
And so, Michael, first of all, what are those 7 chemicals, and what research has been done on those 7 chemicals? You're asking
that
me
they're trying to fix the water with.
Yeah, you're asking me to ingest. Okay?
Are those 7 chemicals safe to ingest into your system?
Exactly, and I haven't heard an answer on that. Have you?
No,
Okay.
not recently.
No. My suggestion is that instead of going to 2 hired guns, why don't they go to UC Davis, which is one of the premier research institutions in the United States. It's proven itself to be one of the top environmental research institutions in the United States. Bring them in, let them have carte blanche to look at our system, and come back and say, this is what it is, and take it for what it is. Now, if the city is afraid of the answer because there'll be a lot of lawsuits, well, I would rather be safe with the public in mind than I would have about worrying about lawsuits. Heck, they didn't worry about a lawsuit by bringing a $500,000 lawsuit against the people of Fresno to keep them from getting a petition. Why would they worry about a lawsuit now? The fact that they are obfuscating in some ways, trying to put this off. They did an unprecedented thing on Mr. Perea by having their chief Flack go after him on Twitter with all these almost borderline hate speech almost. I mean, the guy really went after a guy who's just trying to bring up a topic, a very important topic.
Right. So quickly, just another 30 seconds on this topic. With the water situation the way it is, I don't know if we have any pictures of some of the discolored water in some of the sinks or the bathtub. We have a lot of photos, maybe even some of the video, like a photo gallery. Let's get one of the photo galleries here that shows some of that discolored water. It is disgusting, to say the least, but they claim, I don't know, I heard Power Talk on, when was it, Thursday or Friday. Lee Brand was on there, the mayor was on there, Standriff was on there, Steve Brandow was on there. They were all saying, you know what, we've got our 2 experts. They came in, they said the water's clean, but like you said, they're putting these 7 chemicals in there now, and who knows where this thing is going to go.
They don't.
And so which one is better equipped, in your opinion, to take care of this? Would it be Brand, who's feeding us a line that this water is okay? Or would it be Perea, who's pointing the finger at Brand, hey, you live in that district, you should have known about this, you're not fixing it, but he's not coming up with a solution either. Who's better equipped? Who's better equipped
Who is
to
better
solve
equipped
it?
should be the public themselves to demand answers, no matter who gets elected.
But who's better equipped, Perea or Brand, to handle this? in your judgment?
Well, neither one of them is a scientist, okay? And both have a concern about the people of Fresno. I have to tell you that. I don't think either one of them are vagabonds about the fact that the people are suffering.
But knowing both of them and knowing how they would tackle issues, would Perea go after it harder than Brand?
Well, to date, Perea has brought more focus to the issue on concerns, but they charge that as just a campaign tactic.
Slogan. Yeah.
And so that he gets deflected by that. And the fact of it is this deserves much more look than what is being given, and we shouldn't be deflected by a couple outsiders who are paid to come in or to deflect the issue.
Right.
It must have focus.
Yeah. Okay, let's change topics now and go to Police Chief Jerry Dyer just briefly here. His job is on the line. I saw Dyer recently in person. He says, you better interview me before the election because I may be gone after the election. I don't know if he was joking or not. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, there could be a requirement for fresh face when a new mayor comes in faster than later.
Jerry Dyer.
And Jerry Dyer has served the community well. You know, I know Mr. Dyer from a long time ago when we kind of rubbed elbows at the time we were the helicopters.
I think we got a picture of Jerry Dyer since
and
we're talking about it.
He's served the community well. I know he has caused controversy from the others. So there's a division of anytime a public servant's been around in a top position like that long, you're going to have a division of the community.
But you don't have any insight as to whether or not he's going to be in or out.
Well, he's on the drop program, and we know that timeline is running, so we know he's out at the end of his drop because that's the contract that you give yourself that when you get on the drop program. Whether or not one will say step out tomorrow, and step in with a new guy just to show that he's in power, I'm not sure. I think that would be a mistake to do that, to be honest with you.
Okay, Doug, running out of time here. Let's put up the photo of Blackie Vagim. He passed away over the weekend at the age of 90. He recently celebrated his 90th birthday. This guy was a Fresno legend. There's Blackie right there with one of his cars. Of course, he started the Fresno Autorama back in 1958. He served in World War II. He came back and worked on the family farm. And man, he was a 5-time NASCAR dirt track champion, a one-of-a-kind, a legend. You knew him. 30 seconds giving the lowdown on Blackie Vagim. Our prayers go out to him and his family.
He loved to put shows on. He loved to organize. He's a super nice guy. He loved Fresno, even though he moved down to Southern California for a while, where he got a lot of insight. Well, that's why I was able to get
you know him well.
The Batman car up here and all that kind of stuff. And his shows were wonderful. Unfortunately, he had to stop his shows because of his age and everything else. But his passing is a memorial event to this community.
A big loss to the city of Fresno. And one quick note before we go, because we only got 1 minute left, I want to put the pictures back up of the correctional officers shot and wounded on Saturday. On the left is Juanita Davila and Tuamala Scanlon on the right, the two correctional officers still in critical condition. Thoughts and prayers go out to them and their families. Doug, gosh, it's always good to see you.
Well,
I
thank
appreciate
you.
your
And
insight.
happy Labor Day. In the name of those officers, it's the Labor Day, and it's the day that's supposed to honor the people of labor.
Yeah.
And we honor two people that are laying in the hospital right now. They're part of the labor. So happy Labor Day, everyone.
Not a good Labor Day. We lost Blackie Vagim, a legend. Fresno has lost an icon in the world of sports and auto racing. And certainly the two officers, thoughts and prayers go out to them. See you back here tomorrow with Dennis Hart. Have a good one. At 2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 2020 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today.